Hello. After this week, we will officially be halfway through the semester. How exciting is that? This week, we are also finishing up our second design project, which is our magazine spread. Last week, we discussed the project minimum expectations, and we also went over some great student examples. I also just gave some general design tips. So please feel welcome to reference that video again if you would like to. For our due dates this week, you first have your critiques and critique report due, and for the second due date, you'll be turning in your final magazine spread. For the critiques, these are just like our last ones, but I do want to remind you of some requirements that I often see students miss. So first off, you need to participate on at least 3 different days. And usually this means posting critiques in VoiceThread on 3 separate days. But really, I just need something posted from you on 3 separate days, whether it's your own original post, whether it's a comment on someone else's post, or a response to a comment on your post. I just need to actually be able to see evidence of your participation. If you say, oh, on this day, I looked at other people's work, but you didn't actually record anything in VoiceThread, that won't count as participating. You are required to give feedback to 3 students, but feel free to give feedback to more if you would like. And this is a huge one. When giving feedback, explain what they did well and give at least one specific idea for improvement. This is the main place that I see missed points. Usually with this project, a good critique is at least about a minute long. Sometimes they can go 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but if you're only recording 15 seconds, you're probably not giving them the most useful feedback. So really put in even just a couple of minutes of effort into each student's to look at it and record your feedback for them, because it really does help everyone so much. And then obviously you want to fill out your critique report in full and submit it as a PDF when you're finished. All right. Finally, the most important thing for this week, your magazine spread final. I have some tips I want to give you and some reminders as well. First, let's talk about spacing when it comes to text. Our textbook goes very in depth with spacing, and I know that can be a bit overwhelming, so I wanted to remind you of some main points. First, your largest space should be before headings to visually separate your sections. Now, this goes back to the principle of proximity. When we have that extra space, we can see that those sections are separate. Next, you need to choose whether you're going to indent the first line of each paragraph or add extra spaces between paragraphs. Personally, I think it looks a bit more professional for this project to have the extra space, because it does give a bit more breathing room and helps the design look less cluttered, but you can do either one. And finally, the spacing after headings should be consistent with the space between paragraphs if you do have the extra spacing there. So hopefully you can see this example on the left showing exactly what I'm talking about. After the heading and between each paragraph, you should have consistent space, again, if you're choosing to increase the space between paragraphs, but then you should have a larger space before your heading. Sometimes students like to have slightly larger space after headings. So essentially, the very largest space would be before, the second largest space would be after a heading, and then the smallest amount of space would be between paragraphs. But this is the cleanest way of doing spacing in terms of proximity when it comes to this project. This is generally when I see students have the most success with their spacing. Next, let's talk about our audience. Your magazine spread should be designed with special consideration given to who your audience is. For example, bright colors and larger text is appropriate for designs aimed at children, but not usually for adults. If you're targeting a specific audience, which you should be, consider taking or finding a picture of people who fit in with that audience for your article. For example, if I choose an article and I want to aim it specifically to women in Relief Society, perhaps I can take pictures of women who fit that age range and use that picture in my article. Finally, the LDS Gospel Media Library has a lot of image collections of pictures that might inspire you for your article. And finally, I do have some closing tips for you. First, remember to avoid widows and orphans. These are words or fragments of words that are on their own line or they're single lines away from the rest of the paragraph. Second, don't forget to add continued on page whatever if your article does not fit on all 3 pages. And third, really focus on your typography. Establish strong contrast between your headings and your body copy, but remember to limit your project to 2 typefaces as our textbook suggests. Some students can incorporate a 3rd font for the title, but generally you want to stick to 2 typefaces. So for example, maybe you want to choose an old style serif font for your body copy and a heavily contrasting serif font for your headings. Now, before you submit, of course, you're going to want to finish part 2 of your project report and fix any mistakes you had in part 1, if applicable. You're going to double check your project, make sure you meet all of those minimum requirements, and you're going to export your finished project and your project report, both parts 1 and 2, as PDFs and upload those 2 PDFs to the assignment. As always, please feel welcome to email me or message me in Canvas with any questions you have. I am here to help you. I want to help you succeed. I want you to be proud of this project. So if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know.